All right, guys, it's Coach Harris with another 5-minute math subject. So today what we want to do is we want to look at beginning discussions of how do we solve equations. Okay, so first thing you have to be able to solve an equation is we got to recognize that we have an equal sign. Without an equal sign in between all of those terms, you're not going to have an equation. So let's look at, first of all, single-step equations. Let's say I have 5x equals 20. Okay, 5x equals 20. If you're great with multiplication, you can probably already do this in your head. You can say 5x. All right, so 5 times some number equals 20. 5 times 4 is that. But anyway, I want to back up for just a minute and want to assess what is actually going on here and then use that to then apply the appropriate inverse operation to be able to know what to do next. Okay, so this 5x is the same thing as 5 times x. Okay, so when we think about how do I get rid of that 5 that's connected to that x, I've got to think inverse or opposite operation. Okay, in math we like to use the term inverse. Okay, so what we want to think is, if it's easier for you, you want to go ahead and think opposite operation. Okay, basic operations are plus or addition, minus subtraction, multiply, which is multiplication, and then divide, okay, which is the opposite there. So these are paired together. What's the opposite of plus? The opposite is going to be minus. The opposite of multiply is divide, okay? As you progress in your study of math, you'll recognize that division is just multiplication by a fraction. So anyway, we want to think about the operation, which one is the opposite or the inverse. So here we have 5 times x equals 20. I want to get my solution by getting the variable, in this case x, by itself. So 5 times x is 20. The opposite of times is divide. So I'm now going to divide by the exact thing I multiplied by previously. 5 times x divided by 5 equals 20 divided by 5. Now why did I divide on this side? Because there's an equal sign. It is always mandated now that if I do something on one side, something new, then I must do the same exact thing new on the opposite side. That way we keep the equation balanced or equal. Okay, so now I divided both sides. 5 divided by 5 is 1. That gives me x equals 20 divided by 5 is 4. So we're given 5 times x. The opposite operation is divide. Okay, so let me package that up right there. Let's do something a little bit different. Let's say I have x divided by 10 equals 4. Okay, now divided by 10. That could also be written, please note, that could be written as 1/10 times x. Okay, those are the same thing. I'll go back to the original. So I get x divided by 10 equals 4. Now again, we got to figure out which one of these is the inverse. And of course most people know this. The inverse of divide is multiply. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to multiply by the same number that I've divided by. Now notice what I did right there. I went ahead and multiplied by a fraction. 10 over 1 is the same thing as 10. Do I have to do it like this? No, I do not. But it may make your life a little bit easier when you end up working with fractions like 2/3, 2/3, 3/7, stuff like that. And then the inverse is just that fraction that's flipped. Also, it gives me the ability to see what I'm canceling. So I get x equals, and right here I get 4 times 10 on top, 1 times 1 on bottom. So that is 40. Okay, so far what we've worked on is we've done inverse of multiplication and we've done inverse of division. So now I want to do the inverse of addition. So let's say I had x plus 6 equals -1. Okay, that's plus 6. I got to get that variable by itself. That's the whole goal of solving. So to get it by itself, the inverse or the opposite of plus is minus. So I'm going to subtract 6 here. When I do that, I have to subtract 6 on this side. Okay? Positive 6, negative 6, that goes to 0. X equals. Now, if you remember back to my previous video on adding, subtracting integers, negative, negative, okay? We keep the sign, combine them together, and you get -7. Okay? X equals -7. So that's the inverse operation of addition, subtraction. So now we're going to do the last one of the 4. What that is x minus 11 equals 20. Okay? It's now minus 11. Got to get the x by itself. Then that's the goal. Isolate the variable. What's the inverse operation? Addition. add 11 here, I'm going to add 11 here. This goes to 0. X equals, when I combine them together, they have the same sign, 31. Again, this has been a 5-minute math lesson on dealing with and working with inverses and solving single-step equations. Thank you.